I'm more hopeful because I can see where, I think we can all see what polls say and what the American public says about this. They think that corporations should pay their fair share. They want to see these tax loopholes closed. They think higher tax rates on millionaires makes sense. They don't want to see a Medicare system turned over to private insurance companies. They know we need to deal with our budget deficit, but people know we need to focus most of all on job creation because you can't cut your way out of this. You got to grow your way out of this. And while elected officials are not responding in many ways to what the public wants, I think that it's not only Fox out there. It's also progressive shows like this one that energize our base. And I look at Bernie and I were talking earlier today about trade issues. That the overwhelming majority of Americans think that our trade policy is wrong-headed. They'll continue to put pressure on Congress and on the White House. And I've seen a slight improvement in trade policy. This president at least is enforcing trade agreements, which Bush didn't and Clinton didn't. He doesn't have exactly the right trade policy yet, but I'm hopeful that we move in that direction because of an energized public.
Well, let me just pick up on what Sherrod said, because I agree with him. But, Amy, no one would deny that these are enormously difficult times for our country. There's no hiding that. Whether it's the economy of 50 million people without health insurance or ignoring global warming or a disastrous trade policy or whatever it may be, these are very, very tough times. But I think, from an historical perspective, let's not forget that today we have an African American who is president of the United States. 20 years ago, you would have been a very wealthy person if you bet on the odds of that happening. Nobody would have believed it happening. That's a huge change in this country. Women's rights. We don't have enough elected officials in this country who are women, but we have a hell of a lot more than we used to have. In terms of gay rights, in terms of consciousness about the environment, we are making significant progress. And I would just, pick up on Sherrod's point and suggest that on all of the important issues, fairness in the economy, do you balance the budget on the backs of working families and the poor, or you ask the wealthy and large corporations to contribute? Overwhelming majority of the people are on our side. In terms of health care, should every American have health care as a right? The people are on our side. What has happened recently is a very active, relatively small group of people, extreme right-wingers through the Tea Party, many of them working-class people who have been taken for a ride. And I suspect some of them are understanding now that they are fighting corporate America's battles rather than battles for their own families. They have been energized. And our job right now is to mobilize our base and say, excuse me, we are going to fight for progressive principles and for justice and for environmental sanity. So I agree with Sherrod. I am nervous. I am aware how difficult the moment is, but I am not pessimistic if we galvanize our people and working families all over this country.
And that's exactly right. And if I could interrupt again, Tom, look what happened when that right-wing congressman from Wisconsin, Paul Ryan, the Republican chair, the chairman of the Budget Committee in the House, when he offered his legislation, his budget, but most prominent within it was his scheme to privatize Medicare, to turn Medicare over to private insurance companies and shift costs from the Medicare program to seniors, out of seniors' pockets. And the outcry against that just caused it to be dead in its tracks. That doesn't mean they're not going to try again, but every time they've tried to go after these public programs like Social Security and Medicare, the public rises up because progressives understand this. We know how to organize on the grassroots, and we're able to. Sometimes we're better at stopping bad things than making good things happen. But history is replete with examples of how we've been able successfully to do that as a force in this country over the last 100 years. So that's why, as anxious, as concerned as we are in this terrible economy now, longer term, there's a lot of reason for optimism.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with both of you.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. A quick comment I have is that I definitely believe in helping people whenever we can, but I'm sure, Senator Sanders, you may be aware of the fact that people actually move here because they can have more children and get welfare here. So I just wanted to make a comment on that.
So your concern is about immigration. One of you want to take that?
Sure. I mean, I'm speaking as somebody whose father came to this country at the age of 17, without a nickel in his pocket, and became a very, very proud American. I think clearly we want to do everything that we can, and we are making progress in preventing illegal immigration. Illegal immigration is illegal. I think you need a comprehensive immigration reform program to deal with the fact that we have many millions of people who are in this country illegally. On the other hand, let's not kid ourselves. One of the reasons for the large number of undocumented workers in this country is that for many, many years, under the Bush administration and previous to that, government looked the other way because employers were able to hire these illegal workers, pay them very low wages. These people had absolutely no rights, and they were able to use these workers rather than paying American workers a living wage. On top of that, one of the issues that I have been working very hard on are some of these guest worker programs, which clearly benefit corporations who prefer foreign labor, who are prepared to work at lower wages than American workers. So bottom line is immigration historically in this country has been enormously important. We are a nation of immigrants. There are immigrants today all over America who are playing an enormously important role for our economy in many, many, many ways. But clearly we have to do everything we can to stop illegal immigration.
Okay. Orrin in Long Beach, California, listening on KTLK, our Clear Channel Los Angeles affiliate. Orrin, you're on with Senators Sanders and Brown.
Hi. I have a question primarily for Senator Sanders, and that is, at least for a couple of years, I've listened on Fridays, and usually he says how he's against the trade policies, which I am against our current trade policy. But in 2 years, I mean, he's never written a bill and presented it to Congress, reinstating tariffs, protecting our manufacturing. And that's why people get upset with Congress, because even if you agree with them, they don't do anything.
Well, Warren, let me just say this. As someone who has, I think, a lifetime 100% pro-labor voting record, somebody who introduced legislation when I was in the House to repeal permanent normal trade relations with China, who voted against NAFTA, who helped lead the effort against NAFTA with, among other people, Sherrod Brown, when we were both in the House. You can introduce 100 pieces of legislation tomorrow. It doesn't mean to say it's going to go anywhere. But to suggest that I have not been playing a very effective role in trying to do my best against very daunting odds, not easy, because you have the entire Republican Party on one side, all of corporate America, and, good part of the Democratic Party in support of this unfettered free trade policy. So we are looking at ways to be effective, and we will continue to do that. But
Warren, let me
somebody who is very strongly against.
Part of this is about trade enforcement, and President Obama, who I don't agree with him on some of his large kind of big scale trade agreements that he is continuing to try to move through the Senate and the House. He has, partly because people like Senator Sanders and I have pushed him on, and like Senator Sanders and me have pushed him on enforcing some of the trade laws, which is translated specifically into steel jobs in my state and tire jobs and paper manufacturing jobs, that sort of thing. So that's part of this. The other part is we, because of our efforts, have delayed some of these trade agreements. I mean, there are some trade agreements the president may send up to Congress pretty soon. I hope he doesn't. But those agreements have really been ready to go for a couple of years, and because of a lot of opposition in the public and some in Congress, have been able to delay the introduction of those trade agreements, mostly already negotiated, from getting to the Congress. So it's not. And we have also offered legislation to formulate a very different trade policy called the Trade Act. I could talk more in detail later. I don't need to do that right now, but where it would take us in a very different direction on labor standards, environmental standards, repealing some of the sort of the corporate side of these agreements that investor-state relations, they're called, that really do put us in put democratic government in an inferior position.
Let me just conclude, agreeing with what Sherrod just. Warren, I appreciate your frustration. All over this country, people are finding it harder and harder to buy products made in America. We've lost 50,000 factories in the last 10 years. But sometimes making the kinds of change that the majority of the American people want is just not as easy as it appears. But changing our trade policy so that we get corporate America to start reinvesting in Vermont and Ohio and the rest of this country and creating decent-paying jobs here is something that we are fighting very hard for. But it's just not quite as easy as it may seem at first blush.
Tom in Waterloo, Iowa. You're on the air with Senators Sanders and Brown.
Oh, hello. I have a question regarding research and development. I mean, I noticed that one thing, that the economy is based a lot of times on just simply who builds the best mousetrap and having the world beat a path to your door. What do we have in terms of government research and development projects, or are we just simply expected to hand it all over to the free market and expect them to develop? Because a lot of times, I mean, well, I've been involved in some research projects, and I've seen perfectly good projects thrown to the wayside simply because it interferes with somebody's stock. I mean, what are we going to do to put innovativeness back in the hands of in the hands of the people?
I'll start with that if you want. A couple of things. First of all, we need this is not necessarily a private versus public thing. We need a predictable tax code so that investors really can research, can do the kind of research and development they want to do and the kind of innovation they want to do, particularly in clean energy. Germany has led the world, at least was leading the world in solar energy development because they stimulated both supply and demand, partly by regulation in terms of what we would call in this country renewable energy standard. To get utility companies have to have X% of their electricity produced through clean energy, from clean energy, solar and wind and biomass and others, and partly through a tax code that said come invest in solar energy in our country. Second is we've got to make sure that in terms of things like NIH and CDC that we actually do spend public dollars in this research. And third, real innovation. Much of real innovation comes on the factory floor. And if we're going to invent in this country and innovate in this country and then outsource the actual production of whatever we invented, we're going to lose that edge of doing innovation on the shop floor when the next generation of that product is developed and innovated, if you will. So we've got to, on all three ways, we've got to do better than we're doing to continue to lead the world in innovation and create a middle class and build a middle class that we all want to do in this country.
Well, let me just pick up that on one area where I'm on the Energy Committee and the Environmental Committee. Mm-hmm. And one of the areas that we should be very concerned about is that in terms of solar technology, which was originally developed in this country, we're falling now pretty far behind China and many other countries. There is unbelievable potential in terms of not only protecting our environment, cutting greenhouse gas emissions, but creating millions of jobs as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuels. So there's a lot of exciting potential out there, but one of the things you have to do, which our Republican friends often are not interested in, is investing in research in development, passing legislation which encourages, among other things, energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And again, when you do these things, not only you cut greenhouse gas emissions, protect the environment, become energy independent, but you also create over a period of time millions of good-paying jobs.
The wind turbine technology that the world now uses was developed at a NASA government facility, about 30 miles west of where I live in northern Ohio. Yet most of that technology now that's used, is used for component manufacturing and wind turbine assembly, mostly overseas. China principally, as Bernie says, is gaining on. It continues to outproduce the rest of the world in wind turbine technology, wind turbine assembly, and that's where we go wrong. We innovate, but we don't do it in this country, and that's why you need a tax policy and a government policy really aims in that direction.
Amen.